I bid you all good morning, good evening, and good night. Thanks for watching, joining, and subscribing and being part of the channel. Well, man, do I have a doozy and a video and a half for you guys. So before you switch it off and say, I'm not interested in this, because it's about Australia down under. And we've been talking about Australia for over 10 years now. It's no secret. It's they've been selling out to the highest bidders. Same thing like if you live in Vancouver, Toronto. The same things if you live in California, New York. The same patterns. And now it's costed or accosted or put Australians into a very, very precarious situation. The Australian proper, people that went to Australia, to build the country and build the infrastructure and study and educate there and go to school and blah, 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 and become, part of the country and the Australian tradition, right? Those are the ones that are on the hook, and those are the ones that are getting destroyed right now with what? Household debt. Australia debt clock right there for you guys to take a gander at. You can find it at australiadebtclock.com.au. There's the total Australian credit, but then you go into the debt. So they word it differently, so be careful, guys. So total government debt, there it is, $1,637,483,000,000. Total household debt, okay? Household debt, $3,351,000,000,000. Total private debt, $5,445,000,000,085 million. Can you believe that, folks? So people are drowning in debt, using their homes as an ATM machine. To remember, Australia was on a housing boom for 40 years, right? So it never really saw a real correction. When the United States saw a little correction and all the bailouts by taxpayers, a lot of Americans are still recovering from the 2008 correction. But in Australia, didn't see nothing. Canada didn't see nothing near that. Now, this huge bull market it's been in is absolutely coming down to zero. I don't think it's gonna reset. I think it's gonna bring down a lot of Australian proper. So there it is right there. I want to jump into this real quick. So we were warning about this right here. Australia and Canada household debt out of control. Debt powder keg Australia. Households debt going nuts. Mass defaults ahead. Australia going into bankruptcy. Australia in serious financial trouble. And we've been warning about this. This is like four plus years ago. We've been warning about this. Huge Australian household debt threatens economy. It doesn't danger. Australians are carrying more personal debt than ever before. More dangerous borrowing 5 years ago. So there it is right there on our channel. You can search it for yourself and see across our little magnifying glass here. And you can find it right there. And now, housing is seeing a huge correction as interest rates are going up. So we actually looked into this before. We were talking about when interest rates went back up in 2017. The Aussie cities where property prices is set to keep going down and where they're not. So there it is. It's a trend there. They're keeping track of the trend. Who cares? Everything's going to come down. You got all these build sites where no one's building, and builders are walking away from sites and defaulting and falling into debt, and people holding on to people's deposits. Who knows what's happening down there? It's an absolute disaster. Australia was too dependent foreign investing. Australia was too dependent on money laundering. Australia was too dependent on outside money because the locals couldn't afford to buy anything, just like in Canada or New Zealand or the UK or the blue states of America. So there it is right there. So what do we talk about right here? This is a very important one. 50% crash forecasted for Australia. Interest rates going up. Middle class house broke. Mass exodus 4 years ago. So that while they started raising interest rates back 4 years ago, guess what happened? The Fed had to take it back because people were already defaulting. And that's when they pulled the trigger on the you-know-what, right? Liar loans. Australia moving Australia's risk lending into uncharted waters. Renewal nightmares 4 years ago. What a dumb move. You got to watch this video. It's really good. So they were actually creating or adjusting. Go into a branch and say, hey, I'd like to buy a house. Oh, great. Housing is the best. It's going to keep going up. It's the best investment you'll ever make. That's what the lender will tell you. Then you'd say, how much do you want to borrow? Give us your pay stubs. Oop, your pay stubs don't fit, sir. You don't make enough income. Is there anyone in the house that works we could put on title? No, it's just me. Well, we're just going to create a job for you that you don't have and create your return slips that you don't have because the banks at the higher levels don't even ask for that physical. They just want, stated or whatnot, and then we'll just kind of make something up, or we'll even make you a fake pay stub. That's what a lot of banks have done that. When they started looking into it in Australia, where they got the Royal Commission to go in, they basically just scratched the surface and they found all kinds of garbage. Where people that have been dead for 5-10 years have been paying $3,000 to $5,000 a year in bank fees, and the next of kin is never contacted. Come and get your money. The banks are just eating everything up, right? And that's a big problem. So there it is. Australian market's headed for a crash. Australia needs more money laundering, and Australian housing market and risk of crash of condos. Wages are not keeping up with massive Australian 40-year bull run. There it is, the 40-year bull run. Australian banks, just like Canadian banks, will resort to money laundering and illegal funds to keep going. See, I wrote that, my opinion, see? And this is something we've been on for years, because I have a bad feeling that it's going down for real in Australia right now. And I think it's going to get a lot worse it's going to get a lot worse for a long time. And people are asking me, Mike, when do you start to see markets recover? Like in 2 decades, maybe 3 decades, you'll see recovery. 2 decades? What are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, this is so bad and so far gone that they've ridden, in Canada too, everywhere, they've ridden this wave for so long that they're already catching up to the water around the world. Like, they've went all the way around, and now they're catching it up. Back to the water. No more coast. It's been engulfed. And that's that snake eating its own tail in a circle. And that's what has happened, folks. This is where we're at, and this is something that I'm very concerned about. Because it's going to disenfranchise millions of people. And everyone will be affected by it. But if you're renting, I'm not going to be affected by it. Yeah, but your landlord could have one of these mortgages, or you know what I'm saying? If you're homeless, you'll be affected. Everybody will be affected by this, right? How would I be affected, Mike, if I'm homeless? Well, there's going to be more homeless people to join you, and they're going to be taking your cool or best spaces to sleep. You see what I'm saying? Everybody gets affected down the line. And this is really bad. Household debt, powder keg in Australia. We talked about the powder keg a few times here on the channel. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let me know what you're feeling there on the ground. Don't forget to join us on Mike of the Night if you'd like. Mike of the Night every Saturday on Odyssey, 7 p.m. Pacific time. We will be live, and I would love to talk to a few people down under to find out what's going on in their neck of the woods when it comes to financing and refinancing. Mike Martins here. I have spoken.